Hi, it's Cordelia, the educator. Today we're going to talk a little bit about tuition and why it's a fantastic investment from an early age to support your child to reach their academic goals in the future. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why parents would choose or go for a tutor in the first place. Now, whether this be one-to-one or whether it be group tuition, why it's a fantastic investment and why your child could do that investment from an early age. Now, as we know, whether or not your child goes to school full time or whether they are home schooled, tutoring is a fantastic investment. So let's just go through a few steps, and if you have any questions, please do note them in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So the first thing is early intervention. Now, as we know, it's better to nip something in the bud before it gets worse. If you can see that your child is struggling academically, isn't quite remembering certain elements of certain things that they're being taught in school or homeschool, then it's a fantastic way to cover those learning gaps, bridge those gaps, and to support them to continue to move forward. It's kind of like foundation building. I always use the analogy of a brick wall. You lay really strong foundations and then your child can build upon them as they get older. It's also fantastic preparation for challenges that they may have in the future. Now, there are two elements of mathematics in particular which children always struggle with, which is decimals and percentages. And the same thing where it pertains to English, things that children tend to struggle on is comprehension and sometimes spellings. Now, these things always crop up in, for example, tests. So you've got the SATs test, maybe they're going for 11 plus, their GCSEs, so on and so forth. If we can bridge those gaps, or if we can support your child to get better grades before these exams come into play, then it's a fantastic investment, as I was saying as well. Also, we know that in a school of sometimes 30 up to 35 children, sometimes a lot of children miss things out. Now, again, tuition will get in there, bridge those gaps, and so your child doesn't miss anything. And if they do miss anything in the classroom, then of course we can work on those things as well. It's also brilliant to help your child catch up. Sometimes, even if your child has learned something, even if they've remembered it in the moment, it's great to continuously go back just to remind them, so before any tests come up, they've already got it fixated in their mind and they know exactly what to do. Now, let's go on to a few differences between group tuition and one-to-one, or also known as private tuition. Now, one-to-one tuition, I believe, is the best type of tuition. Why? Because it's as if you're having a teacher sit next to your child in your home most of the time, and they come to you and they find out exactly what your child needs. So it's very much more tailored to your child's individual needs. And if they are having any difficulties anywhere, the tutor can very, very quickly find any gaps, bridge those gaps, and then move forward. So it's a fantastic way of not only supporting your child to move forward, but also going backward, finding any gaps, and then helping them, give them that kind of boost of education as and when they need it before those tests come into play. Now, group tuition is a little bit more generalized. So if your child knows where they're going, they're not that behind, they're doing okay in school, or they're doing all right in their learning, and they want that just additional boost to help push them forward a little bit, I think group tuition is a fantastic investment as well. It also builds their confidence. Some children we've come across, in fact quite a lot, they know what they need to do, but it's just bridging that gap between actually getting it done. For example, when they come up on test and they know they've seen the question before, something like that question, but in the back of their minds they're just not too sure because of that they may lack a little bit of confidence. So tuition helps give them that confidence to say, hey, you know what you need to do, dip into that backpack, get the resources that you need, and let's move forward. Let's answer those questions and let's get it correct the first time. Of course, in schools, there are so many learning differences in the classroom. Now, a teacher is trying to cover all of these, trying to tailor to all of these different children in different ways. They've got different learning abilities, so on and so forth. Now, tuition, because it's one-to-one or group, it's much more tailored and much more focused to your child's needs. If you can think about it, if you've got 30 children, or you've got a small group of, say, for instance, 4 children, or you've got one-to-one, which do you think would work better for your child? Of course, it would be one-to-one, but sometimes a child just needs a little extra boost, and if they need that little extra boost, then I'd probably say group tuition is the best one. So it's important for children to not only go for tuition when tests are coming up, but also to give them that really, really healthy boost of education, so they actually enjoy their learning process. I always say to parents, there's no point in waiting until a test comes up. And this is what a lot of parents do. A lot of parents wait until the test comes up and then they try and find a tutor, or then they go for group tutoring. And then there's this rush, there's this need, there's this eagerness to get it done. And in turn, unfortunately, this can turn children away from education because it makes them so worried, so anxious about getting ready for that test, where I will say slow and steady wins the race. So I would always say, and I do the same with my children, from a young age we've invested in education to make sure that when a test does come up, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. It's not something that we like to talk about, but here in England, that's what it is. Children will be tested and they will be judged on their outcomes as well. So I always say to parents, don't wait until test time. If you know that your child has significant learning gaps, if you know that your child's a little bit behind, if you know that they need to go back and build that strong foundation, one-to-one is definitely the one for you. But if they're okay with their education, if they're plodding along nicely and they're getting okay grades, then I'll probably say group tuition would do. So I also say to parents, it is certainly an investment. Sometimes when parents find out the price of one-to-one or group tuition, they're a little bit shocked. Oh my gosh, it's that much per hour. Oh my gosh, I'll have to invest that much money. I try not to think about the monetary side of it. I try to think about what and how it's going to support my child. I've always tutored, my children have had tutors from a very young age. I myself support them from home in their education as well, in their academic journey, and it's done heaps and bounds for them. I know that I can just, when it pertains to education, I can take a back seat. I know that they're going to be absolutely fine, and it's kind of like one of the weights of parenthood off my shoulders, because I've kind of passed that on to somebody else. That says, hey, do you know what? I know that my child is struggling a little bit. I know that they've got learning gaps. I know that they might be a little bit behind if we don't nip this in the bud. And also alongside that, I know that in a class of 30, 35 children, they're not catering to my child's specific needs. So that's when I call in the tutor, and that's when I get them to bridge those gaps. If and when they've got them, I get them to bridge those gaps. So, and you can see it. A lot of parents think it's right, get a tutor, and then in 2 weeks they're going to see a difference. This does not happen. Tuition is something that you've got to be in it for the long run. I used to say, you'll see a difference in a couple of months' time. You see the confidence boost in a couple of months' time. It's not, 2 sessions and they'll be great. They'll be outstanding mathematicians or fantastic in their English. It does take time. But over time, you will see that difference and you will see the impact. You'll see the impact in confidence. You'll see the impact when it comes to their learning in school. You'll see that impact when it comes to homework. And you see that in eagerness and willing to take part in their educational journey as well. So, as I said, you've got one-to-one tuition, you've got group tuition, you've got online tuition. There's so many varied aspects of tuition that you can now dip into. You've also got YouTube, which has so many free resources. But for me, I think ask yourself the question, where is my child now and where do I want my child to be? If you know that they're already struggling, that they've already got the academic gaps, that they already need that intervention, certainly it's one-to-one. If you know that they're doing okay in school or okay in homeschooling, and they are where they kind of need to be, but you just want to give them that little bit of a extra boost, then I'd say definitely group tuition. And if you just simply want to help them in their educational journey and you know that you've got the time and the ability to do so from home, then just dip into the free resources that are there on YouTube and online and so on and so forth. But I always say to parents, wherever your child is, support them from home as well. There is only so much that a teacher can do with up to 35 children. There is only so much that a teacher can do because she or he is confined to teaching the curriculum and then judging the child by their grades as well. So please, a message to parents, always give your child some type of academic support from home outside the walls of school as well. It's Cordelia, the educator. If you have any questions or such, then just post them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Really hope this video helps. See you later.